Welcome to the Whole Grain Hearth. I'm Richard Plachek. I'm the owner and jack of all trades around the bakery. Where the bakery actually began is when I was in my first year of culinary school at Fanshawe College. I picked up a sourdough cooking book that was really cool, and I just started making sourdough bread for fun. Eventually what happened was all the recipes I was making, they called for 2 loaves of bread. So I would give the second loaf away to friends and family. One week I gave a loaf to my cousin Dorothy. She came back to me the next week and told me that she needed 5 more loaves of bread. The task became, how was I gonna move from making 2 loaves of bread to 6 loaves of bread? Eventually, I just started making 6 every week. Things just kind of went from there. I started keeping an email list of friends and family. The list grew to about 125 people. I was baking 35 to 40 loaves of bread from my house. Eventually, I figured that sourdough was probably a good career path. So I was lucky enough to visit a baking school in San Francisco during my 2 summer breaks at Fanshawe. It's called the San Francisco Baking Institute, and I did 2 classes specifically focused on sourdough. I really got to see the trends in the industry, and the one that was the most interesting to me was the use of whole grain baking and bakeries milling their own whole grain flours. So when I came back home from San Francisco, I got myself a little flour mill. We still have it today. And I started incorporating whole grain flours into my own baking. And I really fell in love with that part of the process. And also, once you kind of taste the difference of it, it's hard to go back to normal flours after that. My dad, Edward, found this space. We spent the next 4 to 5 months renovating the whole thing and opening a bakery. After about a year of being in business, Sammy came on board and the business really kind of went on like a path of exponential growth after that.
Here at the Whole Grain Hearth Bakery, we really take our name to heart. Whole grain to us means that we do not sift our flours once it comes off of the mill, and we also do not bleach them. So with that comes a lot of flavor, a lot of health benefits, a lot of nutrients, and we're really proud to be able to use wheat grown by Canadian farmers. So say our red fife is grown exclusively for us by a farmer in Hyde Park. We get our rye and spelt and whole wheat kernels from Amish millers about an hour outside of London. It's just amazing to be able to see what we can make with these whole grain flours. Before I began working at the Whole Grain Hearth, I had never actually experienced working with whole grain flours. I was educated on white flour and whole wheat flour, but that was about it. So over the years, I was able to use my creative freedom to plan and develop recipes that made it into our weekly menus. Spelt actually became my favorite flour to use. It's got a really nice nutty flavor, and Richard has been able to mill it really finely these days for our pastries. We use 100% spelt pie dough recipes for a variety of things that can be found on our menu. Things like seasonal pies, Pop-Tarts, butter tarts, turnovers. The options are really endless. The majority of our pastry production these days actually revolves around our laminated pastries. So things like danishes, double-baked croissants, savory twists. Something amazing to see is a customer that will come every Saturday to a farmer's market specifically looking for a seasonal fruit Danish, and them telling us it's similar to something that they had in France. Each week that we were open, the menu expanded. So we started with some spinach buns and a few kinds of cookies, and now our menu's expanded to spinach and cheese turnovers, squares, muffins, loaves. So we really try to keep things exciting for our customers, and that's why we provide a different menu every single week.
everything we do at the bakery begins with our flour mill and the organic grains we make flour with. We mill kamut, rye, spelt, and 2 types of whole wheat, hard red spring and red fife. One of the reasons I fell in love with freshly milled flour is there's just something inherently beautiful about it. When you pick the flour up in your hands and you squeeze it together, it will clump together naturally. That's how you can see with your own eyes that all the nutrients and natural oils are still present within the flour. This just allows us to deliver a much healthier product to our customers. Being able to mill things like spelt and rye into like super fluffy, lush flours really gives us a leg up when we're trying to convert recipes from a white flour to a whole grain. Another one of our key philosophies for making bread is we only make natural sourdough breads that are high hydration. So this means that we don't use a commercial yeast in the bread. Instead, we rely on a natural starter that goes through a natural process of fermentation. Basically, what happens at this step is our sourdough starter is pre-digesting the flour. This is why a lot of people who have challenges with gluten have much more success with a sourdough starter. Another tenet of our bread making philosophy is we only do high hydration breads. So high hydration bread means that there's more water in our bread dough than the typical types of breads you would find in other alternatives. So basically what this means is it's the same sort of thing. One of the problems with bread that people eat from a grocery store is they often feel bloated after. But what happens when you eat a high hydration dough is the whole point is you want to add enough water to the bread dough that the bread is not causing somebody to get bloated after. What actually happens when you're eating that store-bought bread is the dough itself was so dry that the bread starts pulling moisture away from your stomach as you eat it. That's why here at the Whole Grain Hearth, our loaves have always been and will be in the future shaped by hand. It's a much more delicate dough, needs that extra touch of somebody actually shaping it. One of the primary focuses when me and Sammy decided how we were gonna approach the business was we had a deep commitment to delivering our customers the finest product we could. Quality will always win out in the end. We were committed to using as many local products as we could. So all our eggs are free run. They come from Macintosh Farms in Stratford. We only use organic milk from Harmony Organics. We get all our butter from an Ontario creamery. It's delivered to us weekly directly. And one of our biggest relationships is with our Red Fife farmer, Bev. So we're lucky enough to have all our Red Fife grown by Bev within London. So it's literally a 2-minute drive from Hyde Park. And one of the decisions we made early on was we would pay Bev a premium price for the Red Fife. This allowed him to invest in equipment that just improved the grain over time. And it also made us secure in knowing that we would get the best product possible and we would always have it when we needed it. One of the benefits that we see from having these types of relationship with Bev and our other producers is we really understand the value that can be provided by making an economic investment in members of our community. The farmers produce excellent product around here. We just take it upon ourselves to try and highlight those things. A big part of our focus on community has always been we've tried to take part in as many charity events as we can handle. Every year, Sammy makes 500 to 600 cookies for Jordan's Run. We've done that for about 3 years. The events have always been successful. It's a lot of work for us at the bakery that week, but it's always super rewarding. Another great relationship we've fostered over the years is with growing chefs. So we've done pizza nights with them. Sammy's done baking classes, done a number of events. We've always had a great time, and we were lucky enough to be chosen, Sammy and myself, as volunteer chefs of the year. Another event we were super proud of is we were able to raise a good portion of money for the Humane Society. Every week, any leftovers we have gets donated to the Men's Mission, as well as we've taken part in some other charity events as well. This is one aspect of our business that I hope we can expand upon in the future.